So, let's talk about something we all think we understand, something you're experiencing right this very second. But the moment you try and grab hold of it, it just slips away. What really is time? You know this feeling, right? A 2 week vacation is over in a blink, but a 2 hour meeting, that feels like it lasts for a geological epoch. This one feeling, this simple observation, gets right to the absolute heart of the mystery. It tells us that the time on our watch and the time in our head are two totally different things. And this kind of splits our understanding in two. On one side, you have our gut feeling, what some philosophers call the manifest image. It's that simple, common sense idea of time as a river, just flowing along. But on the other side, you have the scientific image, and it tells us our gut feeling is, well, wrong. It says reality is way, way weirder than that, and time isn't a simple river at all. So, what's the real story? Okay, to start to unpack all this, we've got to look at our long, long history of trying to pin time down. This obsession, really, with trying to make it predictable, to measure it, to build a clock that ticks the same for everyone, everywhere. And this journey begins, like so many do, with us just looking up at the sky. You know, the sun rising and setting, the phases of the moon, the steady march of the stars. These were our very first calendars, our first clocks. They gave early societies a shared rhythm to live by. And the ingenuity here is just incredible. I mean, you've got Egyptians using shadows to cut the day into pieces. Then you get water clocks. The Greeks called them clepsydra, which literally means water thief. So you could tell time even when it was dark. And then we see these huge leaps, like the Antikythera mechanism, which was basically an ancient analog computer for the cosmos. And Su Song's water clock in China, it was so precise, it's just mind-boggling for its era. But here's the thing. The better we got at making these external clocks, the more obvious it became that they didn't match what was going on inside our own heads. It's like we managed to measure Chronos, that steady, ticking, quantitative time on the clock, but we just couldn't pin down Kairos, that shifting, qualitative, felt time in our minds. And that's what we call psychological time. It's totally personal, totally subjective. It's the reason your vacation flies by and that meeting just drags on. And it's not some kind of bug in our brains. It seems to be a core feature of how we experience the world. But how does it actually work? Well, one of the best theories we have is called the pacemaker accumulator model. Think of it like this. Deep in your brain, there's a little pacemaker just generating a steady stream of ticks. Then, another part of your brain, the accumulator, is like a guy with a clicker, counting them up. The more ticks it counts during an event, the longer you feel that event lasted. But here's the kicker. The speed of that pacemaker? It's not constant. Not at all. All sorts of things can speed it up or slow it down. Novelty is a huge one. Think about that vacation. It's packed with new sights, new sounds, new information. Your brain speeds up the pacemaker to process it all, which makes the whole thing feel longer when you look back on it. Attention is another one. You know, a watched pot never boils. That's because you're literally paying attention to the ticks. And strong emotions, especially fear, can make that pacemaker go into overdrive, creating that classic slow-motion feeling during a crisis. The writer Jorge Luis Borges put it so perfectly. He said, time isn't just something that happens to us. We are time. I am the river, he wrote. It's a beautiful way to think about it. But just when we start to get a handle on this idea of two clocks, one outside, one inside, physics comes along and tells us that the outside clock is way stranger than we ever imagined. See, for hundreds of years, we all just kind of assumed that our common sense view of time was basically right. Sure, our brains played tricks, but there had to be one true universal clock for the entire cosmos, right? Then, in the early 20th century, that entire idea was just obliterated. The revolution really kicked off with this massive conceptual shift. A physicist named Hermann Minkowski, who was working to understand Einstein's ideas, said, look, we have to stop thinking about space and time as two different things. He argued they're woven together into one single four-dimensional fabric. He called it spacetime. And this fabric isn't rigid. It can be bent and stretched and warped. This just completely turned the old Newtonian universe on its head. Newton's time was that comfy single river we all imagine. 1 minute on Earth was 1 minute on Mars. Simple. But Einstein's relativity says no. There is no single river. Every single person, every observer is carrying their own personal clock. And the crazy part is, they are all correct. A minute for you is not necessarily a minute for someone else. And this leads to some truly bizarre results that we've actually proven are real.
Time dilation, for example, means that the faster you go, the slower time passes for you. An astronaut on a fast spaceship literally ages slower than their twin back on Earth. Then there's relative simultaneity, which just destroys the idea of a universal now. Two things that happen at the exact same time for you could happen at different times for someone else who's moving, and you'd both be right. It's wild.
So if time can stretch and shrink, can we just keep dividing it forever? Well, physics suggests there might be a hard limit. At this impossibly small scale, the Planck time, that's a decimal point with 43 zeros and then a 1, the smooth fabric of spacetime might just dissolve. Below that scale, our very ideas of before and after might not even make sense anymore.
Which brings us all the way back from that simple question about vacations to the absolute deepest questions in all of science. If our perception of time is a trick of the mind and physical time is relative and might have a smallest unit, then what is it really? I mean, is it even real?
This is the absolute frontier. We don't know the answer. Is time a fundamental building block of reality, or is it something that just emerges from a deeper, timeless level of physics? Kind of like how the feeling of wetness emerges from a bunch of individual water molecules that aren't themselves wet. Maybe time is like that.
Philosophers basically split this into two big camps. The A theory is what feels right to us. Time flows, the past is done, the future isn't here yet, and only now is real. But the B theory, which actually fits a lot better with physics like relativity, proposes a block universe. In this view, the past, present, and future, they all exist all at once in a static four-dimensional block. The feeling that time is flowing is just an illusion created by our consciousness moving through that block.
And that, right there, leads to the most staggering question of all. If that block universe is real, if the future is already out there, just like another city you haven't traveled to yet, what does that mean for free will? Is everything already written? It's a question that shows us that when it comes to time, the biggest mysteries aren't out in space. They're the ones we are living inside of, every single moment. Thanks for digging into this with me.